Wanted to make a video today talking about my favorite sludge albums of the 90s. Sludge metal was huge in the 90s, especially southern sludge from the southern United States, in particular the New Orleans, Louisiana area. Lots of bands from New Orleans. Just like there was a huge grunge scene in the Seattle area, New Orleans also had their own scene of oppressively slow, sludgy metal, which is perfect for the Deep South. Well, not all these bands that I'm going to be talking about are from the South. Not all of them are from New Orleans, but that's where the biggest representation is from, is the Deep South, which is due to the weather being so hot and humid down there. I think the bands just play so slow and oppressive and anguished down there. I mean, Eyehategod is another band that's from the South, and it's just the most anguished sounding music. I'm a huge fan of that thick, anguished sound that they create. So I wanted to talk about some of my favorites, released mostly in the 90s. Now, a lot of these you may know, but there's a couple bands that are a little more underground that you may not have heard. First is the Melvins. They released this, which is actually a double CD. This has Gluey Porch Treatments, their debut album, as well as Ozma, their second album. So it's a double CD. Really great CD if you don't have it. If you're a Melvins fan, even if you don't know much from the Melvins, their first two albums are a great place to start. Gluey Porch Treatment's probably my favorite Melvins album. A huge wall of sound in the guitar work on that album. Massive, massive guitar sound from Buzz. So of course these guys were not from the Deep South, but these two albums, which were released, I believe, in the late 80s, so it's going to be the only 80s album on this list. Thought I would point out, though, one of my favorite sludge albums, mainly Gluey Porch Treatment, but Ozma is awesome as well. And of course, Bullhead, which was their follow-up. This came out in 1991. Definitely their doomiest. They really went doom on this album. But definitely sludge and doom oriented. And boy, if you don't have these albums and you're a fan of doom, I don't know what you're doing. Melvins, one of my all-time favorite bands. So I thought I would at least highlight their early work, as it's the most sludge and doom oriented of all their work. Thought I would at least highlight those couple albums there for you, in case you have not discovered them and you've been living under a rock. So the next band I'm going to talk about is definitely a lot more underrated. They're not, completely unknown, but this is definitely a band that I feel deserves a lot more credit than they get. I don't hear them talked about very often, and it's kind of aggravating to me. They're called Harvey Milk. Alright, this is their debut album. It's a mouthful. It's called My Love is Higher Than Your Assessment of What My Love Could Be. My love is higher than your assessment of what my love could be. Try saying that 3 times in a row fast. So, this band, Harvey Milk, were crushingly heavy. One of the heavier bands of that era. This was released in 1994. They were from Athens, Georgia, so they were from the South as well, but not from New Orleans. But they had that same oppressively slow playing. They got pretty experimental as well, had a lot of just intensity to them. A lot of experimentation, anguished vocal work. They had the great Creston Spears on guitar and vocals. His guitar work is amazing, and his vocal work, man, he howls like a grizzly bear. I mean, you should hear him. If you haven't heard Harvey Milk, oh my God, go listen now. You're missing out. Especially their debut album, which is not their most famous or popular album, but it's probably my favorite Harvey Milk album. It's got some of my favorite Harvey Milk songs on it, some just pure sludge bliss on it. It mainly just goes right to work, being straight ahead sludge, mainly just cuts all the crap out, which is nice. And it's over an hour long. It's got some great songs. The Anvil Will Fall, one of the all-time best Harvey Milk songs, which is one of the crazier songs on the album. Definitely more experimental, but oh, you gotta hear that one if you haven't. The Anvil Will Fall is an anthem of sludge doom epicness. Merlin is Magic is awesome. My Father's Life Work, 9-minute epic track. Where the Bee Sucks, There Sucks I. Jim's Polish has a nice acoustic intro to it. Very beautiful guitar work. They've got Steven Tanner on bass guitar and Kyle Spence on drums. But Creston Spears is the main attraction of this band. His guitar work and his vocal work make this band what they are. Very talented man, and of course, this was their most famous album called Courtesy and Goodwill Towards Men. Still a pretty famous 90s album. Came out in 1997, I believe. And it's got quite a few fans in the underground scene. Still don't hear it talked about as much, though, as I would like to hear it talked about. But it's got some songs that I really love on it, like Plastic Eggs. My Broken Heart Will Never Mend. That's one of my favorite Harvey Milk songs of all time. It's an instrumental track. They actually have quite a few instrumental tracks. But yeah, My Broken Heart Will Never Mend. That's like a 10-minute hypnotic song, which crushes you with basically the same hypnotic riffs over and over and over again. And it just soars, and it just... a lot of repetitiveness in this band. But that's what you really want with sludge and doom. You want that repetitive, hypnotic dirge, and they really do that well. Harvey Milk's one of the best at that hypnotizing, dirgy, repetitive, crushing sound. I mean, it just, almost the entire album doesn't give you a chance to breathe. Although there's a couple nice, soothing, softer songs on it, like I Feel Miserable, which is quite beautiful, actually. Ironically, a song called I Feel Miserable is actually quite gorgeous. Sunshine, No Sun, Into the Sun, really good stuff as well. It's got some experimental stuff on it. Go Back to France is pretty experimental. And those are good songs too. Pinocchio's Example is an opening track that is just abrasive as hell. And boy, I mean, this band, I kind of understand why they don't get as much attention as I think they deserve, because they are not for everybody. They're never going to be a big band, you know. They're never going to be a normie. You know, the normal heavy metal fan who listens to the radio and their extension of metal music knowledge is Metallica and Pantera and Tool and bands like that. Like, a person like that's probably not going to like a band like Harvey Milk. This is not Hot Topic metal. I mean, this is pretty advanced level. I mean, it's really, like I say, experimental, anguishing, not always pleasant to listen to for most people, but some of us are just designed differently. And Harvey Milk, even though it's not accessible at all, I just love this band. I love their music. I love their vocal work, which is crazy. He just goes and howls and just moans. Most people would just turn that off and they'd say, my ears are bleeding. My ears are bleeding. But me? No, I love it. So Harvey Milk is a band that you need to hear if you haven't heard them, especially these early albums, the 90s albums here. They'd release a lot more work later on in the 2000s as well. But these two albums, definitely their heaviest, most doom-laden albums. Creston Spears is a legend, so these two albums need to be heard if you haven't heard them, and I just don't hear them talked about as much as I think they deserve to be. Eyehategod, another band from the South. I have, of course, their two famous albums, Take As Needed for Pain and Dope Sick, on CD as well. Didn't pull them out for the video, though, since pretty sure most of you know Eyehategod. And I'm sure most of you know this band as well, Acid Bath. but I cannot leave them out of this video. This is their debut, When the Kite String Pops. Of course, the album artwork was painted by John Wayne Gacy, the serial killer. Pretty disturbing. Acid Bath was another Southern band, another band from the South, and another band from Louisiana. Just pure sludge. A lot of doom, a lot of hardcore elements, as well as death metal elements. They really go fast and intense on a lot of the songs, but their core is definitely slow, sludge-infested, brutal riffs. So they mix in a lot of speed and a lot of aggression, but they always retain that sludge and slow doom vibe to it. So a lot of bands in the sludge genre have that hardcore speed, death and thrash almost mixed in it. But this band, they have it a lot. Doesn't ruin the experience though, it just makes it even more intense. When the Kite String Pops, released in 1994, probably their best album. This album is insane. I'm sure you've heard it, but it's got some fantastic tracks like Tranquilized and Scream of the Butterfly, a beautiful song. They go a lot softer on that song. The whole album has this death and gothic feel to it. The atmosphere that these guys create is just spectacular. All about this melancholy doom, all melancholy atmosphere. I just love it. Scream of the Butterfly has to be heard. Dr. Seuss is Dead, Dope Fiend, especially Tabubu Kumi. Well, that song is absolutely crazy. One of the best songs they ever made. The Mortician's Flame is awesome. What Color is Death is awesome. The album clocks in at a whopping 69 minutes. It's got 14 tracks. Of course, Dax Riggs on vocals, amazing vocalist. He has this goth, almost grunge style to him, clean vocal work. They've got Mike Sanchez on guitar, as well as Sammy Duet. Sammy Duet, a very famous New Orleans, Louisiana guitarist. Really, really great guitar work on this album, and the vocal work is beautiful, but it's the atmosphere and the whole attitude of this band that really shines. And the songwriting, I mean, they're really great. Of course, their second album, Pagan Terrorism Tactics, not quite as good as the debut album, but still really, really fantastic. Bleed Me an Ocean is an amazing song. Grave Flower, spectacular, beautiful, softer song. One of those that has a lot of atmosphere to it and slows down. This album actually goes even crazier and has some of that death metal and speed metal on songs like 13 Fingers and New Corpse. They actually have a lot of death metal vocals where he really goes and screams. And boy, those songs are intense. And it closes with Dead Girl, which is kind of an acoustic song. A lot of variety in this album, released in 1996. So those two albums are must-have albums for sludge or doom fans. Really, any heavy metal fan should know this band, and I know most people do, but just in case, I thought Acid Bath deserved a shout-out in this video. The next couple bands are a little more underrated, especially this one. They're called Green Machine. Okay, Green Machine. This is a band from Japan. Again, Green Machine is a band that has to be heard. And they're a very underground band. They were on Man's Ruins Records. Man's Ruin Records was obviously one of the best stoner metal labels of the 90s for sure. And so this band, being a Man's Ruin, you just know it's going to be good stuff. They released a couple albums in the 90s. Damn, their debut album. And I actually had that one uploaded at a time on the channel. And this is the Earth Beater, their second album from 1999. Now, Damn is probably their best album. It has a lot of their lengthier songs on it. But this album is pretty damn good as well. And these guys are fast, aggressive, intense. They don't give you a second to breathe, especially on this album. All the songs are mostly 2 minutes long, and it just, oh my god, it just crushes you. It crushes your head in. The vocal work, very rough, almost death metal type vocal work. Kind of sounds like Eyehategod's vocal work. The singer is crazy. The singer just goes nuts, and he's very hard to understand. The riffs, though, oh my god, amazing riffs. I should probably buy Damn on CD. I think I had a chance to buy it, but never got around to it. But I have the Earth Beater, and it's one of the more underrated sludge albums of the 90s that less people know. So if you don't find anything interesting or new from this presentation, maybe Green Machine, which was named after the Caius song. It's kind of funny that they named this band after the Caius song because they sound nothing like Caius at all. I mean, this band couldn't be any further from Caius. But they were Caius fans, and they're from Japan. It's just crazy how things work like that. So, boy, if you like bands like Church of Misery, another great Japan band, you'll love Green Machine. So this is kind of like Church of Misery's little brother. Definitely a very underrated Japanese sludge band. Check out Green Machine, both Damn and the Earth Beater. Another band that's a little bit underrated, although a little more well-known than Green Machine, is this band, Soylent Green. Okay? This is their debut album from 1998, Sewn Mouth Secrets. Probably their best work. Now, Soylent Green, again, another Louisiana band, another Louisiana sludge band. This time more of a grindcore, almost a lot of mixture of grindcore and again death metal or black metal type vocals. So the vocal work, if you're not into screamed vocals, if you're not into the growled vocals or just vocalists that are very, very intense and not clean, probably won't like this band. Because Louis Ben Fogost is an absolutely crazy vocalist. I mean, his vocal work is it just pierces right through you. Sounds downright evil half the time. I mean, he's just crazy. This band is dark as hell. There's just some crazy lyrics on this album. I mean, they have a song called Gagged Whore, if that tells you anything. There's a lot of violence in the lyrics and stuff like that. It's great for Doom fans, great for the people that like the dark and demented music. Brian Patton, now that is the guy who plays guitar in this band, and he is one of the best sludge guitarists of all time. Definitely. Brian Patton, he has this patented guitar tone, okay? Brian Patton's guitar tone is just legendary. So, you know, you've got Brian Patton, you've also got another guitarist on this album called Donovan Punch. So you've got two different guitarists, and the riffs in this album are just relentless. Scott Williams does really good on bass, and you've got Tommy Buckley, who would join Crowbar, I believe, at one point, Tommy Buckley on drums. You even have backing vocals from Phil Anselmo, but he sang on a couple tracks in the background. So again, it's got a lot of the mainstays of Southern sludge on it. But Soylent Green is a lot more underrated. A lot more underrated than some of the other Southern sludge bands like Crowbar and Eyehategod. Soylent Green doesn't get nearly as much love. So I thought I would give them a shout out for the 90s. They released this one album in the 90s, Sewn Mouth Secrets, one of their best albums. A lot of Southern sludge, but again, very fast. A lot of intense blast beats and grindcore. I love the mix of grindcore and Southern sludge. I mean, it's a very unique mix, and Soylent Green pretty much does it better than anybody. Brian Patton, it's worth getting and listening to this band just for Brian Patton's guitar tone, which just crushes you. Soylent Green would go on to release great albums again in the 2000s, especially Inevitable Collapse in the Presence of Conviction, which was their last album in 2008. Inevitable Collapse in the Presence of Conviction. Quite a mouthful. That one of their best albums as well, but I just wanted to focus on this because it's the 90s, so Here we go, 98. Southern Sludge, Sewn Mouth Secrets. If you haven't heard it, check it out. And of course, just gonna wrap the video up with a couple well-known sludge bands. Crowbar, of course. Most of you know this band for sure. But this is the Oddfellows Rest, my favorite Crowbar album by far. Look at the artwork. Oh man, their artwork was just hilarious. Look how Todd Strange on top there. Todd Strange, oh god. The band was never as good when Todd Strange was gone. I mean, Todd Strange was probably the best member of the band. He was awesome on bass. Oddfellows Rest, released in 1998. Planets Collide, gorgeous song. To Carry the Load, oh my god, one of the best Crowbar songs of all time. Definitely front to back, I'd say the strongest Crowbar album they ever released. I mean, really great stuff. Of course, their self-titled debut album from the early 90s, I believe 93, is also really, really great. I don't have that on CD, but that's really great as well. Time Heals Nothing. If you get self-titled, Time Heals Nothing, and Oddfellows Rest, you got pretty much the three best Crowbar albums. But this CD is kind of cool because it's got Equilibrium with it. And Equilibrium was the next album, released in the 2000s. I believe it was released in the year 2000. And it was pretty good too. I Feel the Burning Sun is a great opening track. So, I mean, it's not nearly as good as Oddfellows Rest, but it's still good. So this, if you can get this CD, if you don't have it, it's not too expensive, and you get 2 CDs in one. So I always like those deals, 2 CDs in one. Already talked about this album, NOLA, but of course, probably my all-time favorite 90s sludge album, which has the guys from Crowbar and COC and Eyehategod on it, a supergroup of sludge. Those are just my favorite sludge CDs that I have on actual physical format. There's other good sludge albums that I don't own on CD from the 90s, but those are the ones I wanted to highlight. I hope you found something interesting in this video. I know most of these are pretty well-known bands, but I hope at least a couple of them were interesting and maybe new to you. Thanks for watching. I just wanted to show you a few of my favorites from 90s sludge, one of my favorite genres of music. So thanks for watching. I will talk to you soon, guys. Doom on!